This is a magic place. No better track to host Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America than Road America, the National Park of Speed.
A huge crowd spread around the 4 miles and 14 corners.
Can really let them stretch their legs down the straightaways. 3 great chances to unleash all the horsepower in these cars.
Everyone wants to race here, and of course, everyone wants to win here.
How the drivers manage the multi-class nature of this championship is always a crucial element to these races.
Unleash the bulls. Yeah, it's Lamborghini time.
When you take one of the world's most recognized exotic sports cars and turn it loose on one of the world's most notable racing circuits, you can expect a symphony of horsepower and breathtaking speeds, but when you place 35 of those high-powered beasts on the same circuit, you get the racing action that only the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series can bring. Welcome everyone to Road America in Elkhart Lake. It's time to sit back, enjoy the sights, sounds, and spectacle of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Series. Hey everyone, Brian Till along with Ryan Marine, and it has turned into quite a beautiful day here in Wisconsin. Ryan, this racetrack known around the world, take us around for a lap.
What a fantastic place. It's the weather certainly has broken in our favor, but opened in 1955, Road America just outside of the village of Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. 14 turns, 4 miles around with some key points: turn 1, turn 5, turn 8, and turn 12, also known as Canada Corner. Great passing opportunities and 171 feet of elevation change around the 4-mile lap. It packs a whole bunch into this massive complex. Fantastic place to come and watch a race.
It is a fan favorite. It's a driver's favorite as well, and it's one of those racetracks. It's 640 acres here make up the Road America facility, and there is something literally for everyone to do. Before we get to race number 2, let's take you back to race number 1 and show you how all of that played out. Championship implications for sure. Will Bamber needed the best finish he could have. He started from the pole and he got the win, but there will be more on that later. He leads the field to green. It didn't take long before Anthony Bullock got a problem down in turn 1. Nick Grote in the 57 involved as well.
And that took out 2 contenders in their respective classes. Tough break for them. Bamber, though, into the pit lane after losing the lead. He went wide momentarily. They ran them long, though, and that strategy worked out great. Darius Trinka came out in front of the hard-charging Wayne Taylor Racing car behind, and then had a battle on his hands the rest of the race.
Oh, he's absolutely fantastic. Persian goes a little bit wide through turn 1. And then down to turn 5 as well. He is doing everything he can to chase down Darius Trinka aboard the 33, but in the end, it would not happen. Darius Trinka, Will Bamber, they take the victory. It's what they needed, Bamber needed in his championship quest, and it was a spectacular race. Talk about the weather. It was rainy earlier today, and it has gotten so much better, and that is a relief to all of these drivers. But I'll tell you what, Ryan, you get off in the grass and you're going to have a problem. Take a look at the starting grid there to the left side of the screen.
Well, you're right about that, because the rain has stopped, but it's only been stopped for a few hours at this point, so the grass is still going to be quite wet. It's still perilous to venture too close to the track edge, but we do see the sun overhead for the first time really all day long. That only happened about 45 minutes ago, and the track temperature is starting to climb with the sunshine beating down on the track surface.
Well, and that track temperature could be an issue. I was talking to Will Bamber earlier this morning, and he said, you know, keeping the tire temperature on this Hankook tire in an operational range is difficult around this racetrack with predominantly right-hand corners. Left side tires take an absolute beating, and there is some tire degradation. So you need to make sure you are nice and conserve a little bit so that when you hand over to your teammate, they're going to have a race car that they can work with. Right now on the front row, it will be Nick Persing behind the wheel of the #1 from Wayne Taylor Racing, that beautiful black and blue Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. Hard to believe it's their first pole of 2026. Gianno Torino outside. both Pro Class cars on the front row, but the second row made up of Pro-Am entries. 4 different classes in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and you'll see all 4 of them in action. The only difference, the experience level of the driver behind the wheel. Here we go to the start zone. Persing gets where he wants to be, and he is in the throttle. We are racing race number 2 of the weekend at Road America.
Torino, though, able to keep pace with the pole sitter. That's the green car that's raging around the outside. Big twitch there under braking, trying to make the outside line work. Very close to contact between the two.
Torino well off the racing surface, and we'll see what the officials have to say about that. Really no change of position just yet. Perhaps a warning, still side by side through 3, and that is going to give all the cars behind a run down towards turn 5.
Finally, Torino dropped the wheel there on the left-hand side of the track. That had caused a big moment for him. He was able to regain control, but it cost him a position. Settles back in line, 3rd overall as the field heads to turn 5 for the first time.
Down into turn 5 and a little bit of contact, and Torino goes wide. The 2 cars behind him, both of the orange cars, are in the Pro-Am category, so he's going to lose a couple of positions, but how many does he lose in Pro?
Well, that's really the question. That's what he'll be trying to factor in, but we'll have to let things cycle through to get a definitive answer for that. It doesn't look like Torino's troubles are done yet. Getting around him just most recently was Darius Trinka, winner yesterday, but starts all the way back in 7th today. He's teamed up with Will Bamber, who's part of that championship battle you alluded to in the Pro Class.
Second car in the serial, the black and orange with the green mirrors. That's the number 41. That too is a Wayne Taylor Racing entry in Pro-Am. Mark Miller behind the wheel and on pole yet again in 2026, the car that he shares with Paul Nimshoff. Miller has placed that 41 on pole 4 times now. Every time he's qualified it, he has been up front, and you got to think about it from Nick Persing's standpoint. It's great to have a teammate behind you that's in a different class.
Yeah, that's a great point. He can play tail gunner a little bit. Here's Torino, who's had an active opening lap, going side by side through Canada Corner and making a position back up around the silver car there. So trying to recover after getting shuffled back on a couple of occasions.
Field getting settled down. It's going to take maybe a lap and a half, perhaps 2. I don't think any more than that to get the temperature and pressure that you want in these hand-cooked tires. Take a look again at what happens in turn 5. Torino just gets a twitch under braking, straightens his hands, and uses the runoff.
Well, he had no choice. I think he would have been into the back of the car in front of him if he hadn't with that big twitch there. So he took the runoff as an escape road effectively, but it cost him a ton of positions, and his troubles weren't over there. Got shuffled back more a little bit later in the lap. He settled back in 6th overall, but 4th in class. 2 of the cars, thankfully for him, that got around are out of class, Pro-Am class competitors.
Hey, let's talk championship for a moment, Ryan. We'll talk Pro Championship right now. Nick Persing came into the weekend, and he and his teammate, Hampus Eriksson, 3rd in the championship. They slipped to 4th yesterday with the finish that they had there, so they're looking to work their way back up. 2nd is Will Bamber. Elias De La Torre sits 3rd on the racetrack, right? 2nd on the racetrack, I should say, right now. 3rd overall, but 2nd in the Pro Class. And what's important about that is that the 33 is behind him. Darius Trinka, with a great run yesterday, is a spot back, and that is big in the championship. De La Torre leads Will Bamber right now. If he can finish in front of the 33, he's going to stretch that lead.
But it's really close, just a handful of points, I believe 3 when you factor in the points for pole coming into this race. So every position extremely crucial in that extra tight battle for the Pro Class Championship. Big move there from De La Torre, getting around Mark Miller, so he's cleared the out-of-class traffic. Now he has his sights set on Nick Persing and the lead.
What he's going to have to do now is see if he can hunt down Persing and get by. That would be a big feather in his cap. 15 points to win, 12 for 2nd, 10 for 3rd. So right now, he would have 12 points if it were to end this way. Obviously, we've got a long way to go. And Darius Trinka and Will Bamber would have 10, so they would pick up 2 in the championship. You said it, only 3 points separated De La Torre and Bamber when the green flag dropped on race number 2 of the weekend.
And they're the two that are most closely tied together for that championship battle. After that, third, fourth, they're within a couple of points of one another, but that's 24 and 26 points further back in the championship. And with only 15 points on offer for a win and a 3-point differential between first and second, you can see how if both teams that are in the championship conversation have a good day, it's hard to make up much ground. The thing that can bite you is having a particularly bad day, especially if your rival capitalizes and scores big points.
Well, yeah, the more cars that are in your class, the more it hurts if you have a bad day. But right now, the racing is good. And one of the things that Will Bamber had said when I was talking to him this morning as well is he thinks the car is more difficult to drive this year than it has ever been here at Road America. A lot of different types of rubber on the racetrack, and a problem for the 37 and the 74. We'll have to see, is there right rear damage to the 37 kind of stuck there on the edge of the gravel trap? And I can't tell if the alignment is a bit askew. It does look like there has been some type of a rub on that right rear hand-cooked tire. The flame out of the exhaust, not anything new on a car that's stalled. It dumps a fair amount of raw fuel into the exhaust system. It takes a second for that to burn out, but we'll see if we can get this car out of the gravel and back on track and avoid the full course caution.
It looks like we might be able to. Clay Wilson, great work to get that car out of that situation. Daniel Maria was the other car involved. They were down fighting for 32nd and 33rd in the overall running order, and extra frustrating when it comes to it coming together. They're not even in the same class, so that's not the kind of situation that you want to be mixed up in a battle that really doesn't affect your season, unless it does with it coming together like that.
Well, and it's part of multi-class racing, right? In 4 different classes right now. We talked about it at the start. The front row were 2 pro class entries. The second row were 2 Pro-Am class entries, then Pro again on the 3rd row, and then a mix of Pro-Am and Pro on the 4th row. So it's one of those things, you've got to know who you're racing with. You need to get by them if your nearest competition is in front of you and getting away, but at the same point in time, you've got to be careful about the risk that you take in doing so.
Exactly. Checking in on some of the class battles here. This is Dean Newell's leader in the AM class. He's got David Staub just a second or so behind. Cooper Broll another second or so further back. This is down just outside of the top 20 or so in terms of the overall running order, but or I take that back, it's right outside the top 15 in the overall running order, but pretty competitive here, and it has been a reasonably competitive championship battle as well in the M class this year.
Absolutely. David Staub, who is right behind the 70, and I'll call it a tennis ball yellow colored number 48 Lamborghini. Some new signage on the side of his car this weekend representing the Abigail E. Keller Foundation, which is a nonprofit out of Texas, and it really does a great job of supporting children facing serious medical conditions and the families that support them, and it raises awareness about the critical need really for pediatric palliative care and hospice support services in Texas. The number that's amazing to me that they threw out to me was 85,000 medically fragile children just in the state of Texas alone, Ryan. So a great cause there. They've got their gala coming up in August, and if you're a race fan, that gala is at Circuit of the Americas. So a great opportunity to check out the Abigail E. Keller Foundation online. And if you're in Austin in the weekend in August, make sure you get a chance to go on August 22nd to that gala.
Yeah, it's not an easy topic to talk about, but an important one nevertheless, and they're doing great work. Problems for Mike Fitzpatrick, who had a great day yesterday with Johann Schwartz in the AM class, but that was down in turn 8. Car stopped at the side of the track. Did look like he got it refired, but that will drop him well down the order.
And you talk about moving in championships, that win for Schwartz and Fitzpatrick yesterday catapulted Johann Schwartz from 5th in the championship in the AM category to 3rd. So
right.
You were talking about having good days and bad days. The point swings can be significant when you've got a fair number of cars in the championship. There's a look at it. I think there was contact.
Certainly, I agree. Now the question is with whom?
And who hit whom?
Yeah, right. Well, race control will sort through that, but was that Graham Doyle possibly?
Could have been. It looked like Fitzpatrick got the worst of that. It looks like perhaps he got hit from behind, but really see the car number or a good enough silhouette of it to determine who did what to whom. Meanwhile, Nick Persing continues to lead. Good solid run, and it was crazy to me to think that he and Hampus Eriksson, this was their first pole of the year as a problem for the 98. That's down to turn 5. Back underway, no harm, no foul there. And so there's one of the things I love about this racetrack. Turn 5, turn 8 has, both of those corners have a fair amount of runoff that allows you to really get the car out of the way. So that car originally entered as the number 13, I believe. Yep, there it is, off. And then back on Vanderdrift behind the wheel, and that a driver pairing that certainly knows how to get things done. Very familiar in the Asian Lamborghini Super Trofeo series and race winners as well. So Chris Vanderdrift and Tom Kingsford had a great run yesterday as well, Ryan. Oh, and a problem in the kink.
Wow, that was a big one into the safer barrier there for the 47 car. That's Cooper Brohl, who was running just off of the podium in the AM class when he made contact with the wall. It looks like he's trying to limp his way away from the scene of the accident, but I'd be surprised if he's able to make it all the way back. That was a hefty impact with the left-hand side.
And Brohl with a good run yesterday, and another podium finish. He's had 2 on the season now, but yeah, he didn't get too far. He didn't get to Canada Corner before he has brought his car to a stop, or it has given up on him. And if he can't get it moved here shortly, you see the yellow flag in the background warning drivers that there is a problem on the racetrack ahead. They may have to go full course caution.
Let's look at this again. There was the slow-moving car of Vanderdrift, and Brohl just caught him at the wrong time there, going into the kink. It's a very challenging corner, full stop, but to try and make it work side by side, probably not advisable, as Cooper found out there, and brings out the full course yellow.
It was just interesting. I think the racetrack, the way it is right now, Ryan, as you see the AMR Track Services Rescue Raptor on the scene. Always great to have such a dedicated professional crew. Anytime you've got a problem on the racetrack, the AMR Track Services team, the first one's usually there, and the rapid response vehicle with the doctor on board will be arriving here shortly as well. But I think the racetrack is in a condition right now with the rain that we had earlier and other races throughout the day, that right now there's not a lot of rubber on it anymore. A lot of that rubber washed off by the rain that we had throughout the morning. And for Cooper Brohl, he just got a little offline, and it was odd. It was all of a sudden there was no grip.
Yeah, and he was along for the ride at that point. Like I said, it was a difficult time to catch that slow-moving traffic. If he had decided to wait, he would have really had to get on the brakes and lose a heap of time sitting behind through the kink. Let's look at this again. So that's Vanderdrift working his way through after his issues moments ago. Brohl comes upon him and decides to try and make the pass, but as you say, as soon as he gets offline, there's no grip to be found, and the car shoots off to the left and into the wall.
That was absolutely wild, because it looks like there's going to really not be a problem going around him. Obviously, the speed is substantial there, but all of a sudden, the car just wants to go straight. So for Cooper Brohl, like you said, just along for the ride. Big impact, safer barrier there is just a blessing, to say the least. You could see it collapse and absorb energy that would have otherwise been absorbed by the car. And anytime you can expend that energy outside the vehicle, and certainly outside the cockpit, the driver is going to be in a much better position, obviously. And thankfully, Cooper Brohl out of the car. He's going to walk over there to the AMR Rapid Response Vehicle, and they will take him to the infield medical center. Anytime you make contact with a wall here and the car cannot continue, you're going to go for a ride to the infield medical center, and they're going to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah, take those precautionary checks. Just make sure that there's nothing that might not have made itself apparent straight away, and he's in the best care possible. There's no doubt about that. The safety team now checking that safer barrier. SAFER is an acronym. Steel and foam energy reduction is what SAFER stands for, and all thanks to the University of Nebraska and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which collaborated on developing the SAFER barrier a couple of decades ago, and now it's become standard, especially on ovals around the country. But here at Road America, the staff deserves a ton of credit for installing it right there in the kink, where if things go wrong, they go wrong in a bad way. So if you can mitigate that in some way, that is an outcome worth pursuing.
Yeah, and the track has done such a great job over the years. They've spent $36 million over the last several years improving the racetrack from a safety standpoint, from a customer and a fan standpoint, and it shows. And you talk about trying to mitigate the energy and the safety of race cars. Let me just take you back to Watkins Glen. And this collision that we saw in Lamborghini Super Trofeo last time out, 10 years ago, may have had a very different outcome. Brandon Godovic behind the wheel of the 46. Contact is spun in the S's, and then just a crushing impact into the left side of the car. Brandon Godovic out waving to the crowd, screamed something to them, missing a shoe. And the great thing is, we had a chance to talk to Brandon just yesterday. Look at the damage to the car. He's back at the racetrack this weekend, not competing, but great to hear him yesterday.
Well, that shows the amount of safety
thumbs up thing and smiling. Zero memory. So that was one of the weirdest things to go back and watch, because I didn't, had no idea, what kind of happened between the car and the infield care center and stuff. And I did find out that I know a lot of people have been wondering what I shouted. Apparently I said, somebody throw me a beer, when they were putting me in the ambulance. I would like to say just thank you to everyone that's, whether I knew you or not, that's just reached out. Because honestly, physically is one thing, but I think it's been more mentally tough than it has been physically. I knew I needed to make it this weekend, no matter what the pain level was, just to see everybody. And I think especially like on my team, none of the guys have seen me until 2 days ago. I just wanted to be here for my team, my drivers, and just let everyone know I was doing all right.
It's just crazy to think, when he was put in the ambulance, Ryan, you and I looked at it and said, oh, well, that's great. He's smiling, waving to the crowd, seems to be in a good place. He doesn't remember any of that.
That is wild. And again, that's why you were always sent to the hospital just for a quick check. Absolutely. No matter how big the impact is. And that's what we were talking about a moment ago with Cooper Prohl, because sometimes you could have a driver exhibiting no symptoms at all initially, and then only later do you discover that there's something amiss, unless you go through those precautionary checks. So glad that Brandon's okay. He's a racer's racer. It's the family business to go racing. Precision Performance Motorsports, PPM, active, of course, in this championship. They've been active in stock car racing over the years. They've entered cars in the WeatherTech Championship. Just a great racer who is having a pretty good season up to that point, and just glad to see that he's got a smile on his face and back at the racetrack.
Absolutely horrifying when it happened. And like I said, when we saw him get in the ambulance with a smile and waving, we thought, well, he's okay. 3 fractures in his left leg with a plate and multiple screws, 3 fractures in his pelvis, concussion, obviously. And it appears now they've discovered a torn ACL in his left leg. So the injuries are significant, and it was really funny when we were talking. He said, I do remember little bits and pieces. I don't remember being put in the ambulance. I don't remember screaming, somebody throw me a beer. But he said, I do remember trying to convince them that I was okay, and obviously I wasn't. Speaking of not okay, the 33 is not okay. Behind the safety car, the field is streaming by, and Darius Trinka is on the right edge of the road waving cars by. He has a problem.
Well, we had a report earlier that he might have some kind of power issue, so I wonder if that has materialized in an even more significant way. And this is huge. This is the winner overall yesterday. You see the white car back of the shot, limping behind the safety car and waving the rest of the field by. And crucially, in addition to Darius Trinka, who's in the car right now, this car also carries Will Bamber, who's in that championship battle. This is potentially a massive moment in the 2026 season.
Oh, this is absolutely brutal. One of the things that Will had said was, hey, yeah, we had a problem, but we got it sorted out before race number 1, and we were good to go, obviously. But Trinka is now taking the shortcut back to the paddock. He obviously doesn't believe the car will make it around the remaining 2.5, 3 miles to get back to the paddock. This lap obviously will not count. That'll get erased. So they are well down in the order now, if they even get back into the fight.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't do that unless you thought there was something seriously wrong with the car, because you instantly lose that lap. But it does get you back to the team in the paddock quicker, and we'll see if that X09 team can make repairs. I'm sure they will, because they're in the midst of that championship battle. We're here at Road America, Brian, looking at what's still to come. Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that's September 18th through the 20th, and then the season concludes in Italy at Monza as part of the Lamborghini World Final Weekend, which brings all of the Continental Super Trofeo Championships together on a given weekend. One of the great events in global motorsport. If you've never seen it, never been there, I highly encourage making the trip if at all possible.
I'm trying to highly encourage those that we work for to send us. So, yeah.
I'll co-sign. What do I need to do?
Hey, but great point there. There are 2 more weekends, 4 more races. This championship is not over with. Even if the 33 is not able to get back out, they score minimal points, because let me take you back to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, when in race number 1 of the weekend, Will Bamber had his problem. He and Darius Trinka scored 0 points, while Elias De La Torre scored 12. And you were like, oh, this is the championship. I mean, you can't recover from something like this. Until race number 2 of the weekend, 24 hours later, and Elias De La Torre had a mechanical issue and scored 0 points. So it is not over until it's over, and I think you just have to keep focusing on that and look back to examples that highlight the fact that you need to keep racing, you need to keep doing what you can do. And if they can get the 33 back and get it back out on the racetrack, you don't know if someone else may have a problem and actually finish down further than you, and points are points. Even 1 point is better than 0.
Oh, well, when we're talking about a championship that was separated by just 3 coming into this race, then yeah, you can see that if you find a point here or there the rest of the way, it can totally change the complexion of the championship. So hopefully X09 can get to the bottom of whatever the problem is, but have to feel for those guys, all the effort that's gone in after the big day yesterday, the heroic drive of Trinka trying to fend off that challenge for the second half of the race after they used strategy to get the track position back. From that high now to this disappointment, that's a big swing.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. Take a look at the biggest movers right now. Graham Doyle up 12 positions, and Philippe Touchette, talking about championships in LB Cup, I think Touchette had the drive of the race yesterday when he's doing the same thing that he did yesterday. All of his qualifying times for qualifying 1 and qualifying 2 were removed because of a technical infraction. So he was on the pole for both races. That would have been 2 points. Those points are gone, and every lap time was gone. And he started from the back of the field, and he has already improved 10 spots, and he is moving forward. He's 4th in LB Cup right now, and this full course caution is going to bring him back to the field. That's the other benefit for Touchette with this full course caution. It brings him closer to Ray Shahi, who's just in front of him, and then Rocky T. Bulldog, who is 2 spots in front of him. And Philippe and Rocky T are the 2 protagonists at the top of the LB Cup championship right now. And the last person that wanted to see this full course caution was Rocky T. Bulldog.
Yeah, this is not what he wanted to see, no question, because it brings that rival that little bit closer. Touchette's done a really good job to recover after the frustration of losing those qualifying laps. Just reset his mentality and focused forward, focused on making up as many positions as possible. Had the solid day yesterday to get up to 2nd place. Rocky T fell back late in that race, only finished 5th, and so that championship closed up substantially to just 7 points. Or I take that back, that extended slightly to 7 points, and now Touchette's in a position where maybe he can make some further inroads depending on how the restart goes.
Yeah, for Rocky in the 99, that beautiful silver, black, and gold with the maple leaf on the side of it, representing Bulldog Farms, the maple syrup company, which is, if you like maple syrup, you need to talk to Rocky. He needs as many points as he can. Like you said, the gap extended a little bit after yesterday's race. He needs to finish in front of Touchette to keep this championship close. And we are back at it. Green flag waving again. Nick Persing leading the field. And once everybody gets past the pit in, I would imagine that we'll find that the pit window will indeed open.
That's right, it was delayed because the normal time that it would happen came during that full course yellow spin at the back of the pack. Oh, and that's some damage as well. That's more than a spin for the 95. It's Tasca.
Yeah, and that looks like that car is not square. I'll agree with you on that one. And talk about a change of fortune. I just said it's not over till it's over. For Chris Tasca, he has had an up and down season, predominantly down at the beginning of the year, but he's won the last 2 races in a row and has had the last 2 pole positions. But maybe the bad luck has come back because Tasca with a problem there coming through turn 14 as he heads to pit road.
And I think he was in before the pit window was officially declared open, so this wouldn't even satisfy his pit stop if I'm reading that correctly. Meanwhile, pressure is on in the battle for the lead. De La Torre benefits from this reset as well. He finds himself on the doorstep of the race lead, and Persing is under a ton of duress.
He is pressure really being applied now by Elias De La Torre. The leaders come at you. Take a look at the replay, bottom of the screen, multiple cars involved. The 95 was in there. Couldn't quite catch the other 2 numbers, but that right rear suspension looks deranged, and I saw a crew member kind of throw up his hands. I think they are done. In fact, that's why Chris ended up spinning again. Couldn't keep control of that right rear suspension. You can tell that it is askew.
Just got word of a couple of penalties. Incident responsibility. This is to Graham Doyle. Remember, there was the contact that I thought might have involved Graham's car. Evidently, that was the case. So that was with Clay Wilson. So he'll have to do a drive-through penalty. And additionally, there's been a penalty given to the 74. I'm not sure exactly what that one was for, but another drive-through penalty will be will need to be served because of that.
That was incident responsibility with the 37 of Clay Wilson when Wilson had his problem. So
yeah, I'm sorry. And then the penalty to Doyle was with Fitzpatrick in the 89X car.
Now, this was an interesting run up and into pit lane because in reality, there are 3 lanes in the pit lane: working, transition, and fast lane. You're supposed to be in the fast lane, but we had cars side by side coming up pit road.
Yeah, well, the pit lane itself doesn't start in terms of, you know, where you need to be down to the pit speed limiter until a little ways down the road, where even from where it separates from the actual racetrack. So you do get that sometimes with some drivers pushing the envelope a little bit further than others.
Think about the strategy we saw yesterday played by X09 Racing, leaving Will Bamber out, and Bamber with a great in-lap and Trinka with a great out-lap, and maintained the position when they did their pit stop, or actually picked up a position, I should say, on that pit stop, and that's what gave them the victory yesterday. Obviously, the victory has slipped away from them today with whatever mechanical problem it is that they have on the 33. They'll see if they can get back out and collect any points at all for the day, but these pit stops are absolutely crucial. You won't see fuel going in. You usually won't see tires going on, but you can make mistakes, and if you plan it right and you use strategy correctly, you can gain positions.
And you still have to execute on the pit lane,
Absolutely.
Get that driver change done, and get the timing of the release correctly, because if you come in under the minimum, you risk a time penalty added to your race come the checkered flag, and that's caught out several over the course of the season so far. Quickly wanted to go back to that Graham Doyle drive-through penalty. I think that might mean that the unbeaten streak is very much in jeopardy here. Graham and Danny Formal have been awesome all season long. Really have avoided any kind of major setback, but today maybe their number finally came up.
That's a really good point. I had forgotten about that because they have been essentially squeaky clean all year long, and very seldom is their number called even in practice for a track limits violation or anything like that. And so this penalty with the incident responsibility with the 89 of Fitzpatrick, it very well may end their unbeaten streak, which currently stands at 7 in a row.
7 races in a row, and that is not easy to do. They deserve all the credit for getting there, and I suppose the good news is they've banked enough points. They've got a healthy lead in that championship, so they can afford a day like this, but it's still disappointing, especially after the strong start they've had to the season. Now we're seeing another batch of pit callers here, Brian. A handful will stay out. Mark Miller has inherited the overall lead, and that's a car I expect to stay out as long as possible. The pit window opened, by the way, with 24 minutes 30 seconds on the clock, so that means it closes with 14 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, and Miller will go, I suspect, as deep into that as he can.
Yeah, I would think so too. It's one of those deals that the delta between the two drivers, Paul Nimshoff and Mark Miller, is significant enough that Miller is making time on the racetrack and at the head of the field right now, and no traffic in front of him. You can see traffic well up the road. He could probably do another lap before he catches that traffic. That is all gap that he's going to hand to Paul Nimshoff when Nimshoff gets behind the wheel of the 41. And Miller has just been exceptional all year long, not only behind the wheel, but helping Paul Nimshoff develop his skills as well. And Mark is one of those very experienced drivers who is a Trans Am, a TA2 champion, drives just about anything you can put him in, and when he does, he drives it well. And something about this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 just seems to suit him.
And it's worked well. He and Nimshoff have stepped up their game this year. Don't always have the results to show for it, but have had good pace. You talked about his prowess in qualifying. Class poles every time he's qualified this car for Mark Miller. And this is a home race for Nimshoff. He's from just down the road. So if there's a track he knows, it should be this one. This could be a big day for them, but what they need is this race to stay green. A yellow would be a big problem for them and their strategy.
Indeed it would, and look at this, just a moment ago, a little bit of squeeze there, and for the 36, just holding on after dropping the wheel there off to the right side of the road. And man, that one was a close one, to say the least, because if that car had hooked back just a little bit more to the left, it would have been Katie bar the door, and across it would have been across the track would have gone. That was Joel Miller trying to look up the inside aboard the 36 and get a position there after pit stops, but road narrowed down in a hurry.
A big penalty, Brian, in terms of the LB Cup Championship. Rocky T. Baldock has been given a drive-through for incident responsibility. One of the cars involved was Chris Tasca. This was down at turn 14, so I think this was on the restart. And Baldock right now leads that LB Cup class currently. So this will cost him dearly. Tasca, of course, has dropped down and down to 6th in the class and still is in the pit lane. So any chance of a good result for him has gone by the wayside. This could result in a bit of a shakeup in the LB Cup points, especially with the issues here for Baldock.
Yeah, that is unfortunate to say the least. We did not have a good shot of it. The three cars just come into the view of the camera, and there's a kerfuffle going on. They're all together. Really hard to tell who did what to whom, but race control has more cameras than we do. When you look at the two cars in LB Cup that have not stopped, Esfahani and Wilson, they'll be pitting soon, and when they do, Touchette should take over the lead in class.
Yeah, so I misspoke and I said Baldock was leading. He was not. If he was second, I think, of those that had made their pit stops already. And now I think the remaining LB Cup drivers that had not pitted are serving those pit stops as we speak. So you're right. This should bump Touchette back to the lead in class and give him a chance to extend that points lead with the drive-through coming for his championship rival.
And that is painful. And it's one of the things that I had said about Touchette yesterday was I was impressed with his drive, because with the penalties that he had, having both qualifying basically negated, he stayed cool, calm, and collected and just went and drove the car. The penalties were behind him, and I think it's one of those things that you've got to be able to put behind you and leave the emotional side out of it, which he did a great job of yesterday, and obviously he's done the same thing today.
Yeah, really great job to clear that from his mind and just focus on the task at hand. Speaking of which, let's focus on what should become the battle for the overall win of this race. Nick Persing has given way to Hampus Eriksson. Elias De La Torre has given way to Dennis Lind, and they exited the pit lane in the same order in which they came in. That was a couple of laps ago. To my eye, though, Eriksson seems to be legging out a bit of a gap over Lind. Not much. They're still in the same camera shot, but Eriksson with a bit more breathing room than his teammate Nick Persing had when De La Torre was giving chase earlier.
When you think about the experience that this Wayne Taylor Racing organization has in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, and the setup on these cars is spectacular, and obviously the data that they receive from the drivers in the numerous cars that they run benefits everyone, right? So I know that, again, when I was talking to Will Bamber earlier today, he said, you know, they have a good car. Wayne Taylor has a good car underneath them, and we struggled a little bit, but we found the balance in it, and I think what we've seen throughout the weekend is exactly that. Hampus Eriksson behind the wheel of the #1 right now. Lap time's about 0.4 of a second faster than Dennis Lind that last time by.
Nimshoff now in the car that Mark Miller had been leading with, and Nimshoff is tiptoeing his way around trying to get up to speed, and in so doing, that's allowed Henry to sweep on by in car 44 to take the lead of the Pro-Am class. So there he is in the 44 with that kind of kids road toy mat paint scheme. I really love the look of that car, and this has been a good drive there and a chance here perhaps for a breakthrough performance in a class that has been dominated by Formal and Doyle all season long, but they've had their misfortune today, so now somebody perhaps can somebody will break through for their first win of the season.
Problem for the 72, that car back underway, and just kind of a spin and go down in turn 3, I believe. That's the 72 with Troy Peterson and Josh Espahani behind the wheel on the weekend. Let's see what happens. Just on his own, Peterson around 625 horsepower and traction control, obviously, in this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo, but one of those deals where I think there's problems. Is that the 41?
That is the 63. And they had an issue right after the checkered flag yesterday. They managed to get on the podium, but then that car went up in smoke. Now a problem at the left rear, and I don't think it's just a puncture, Brian.
No, that's a suspension issue, Ryan, and significant damage to that left rear. I've got to believe that, well, I was going to say I've got to believe it was caused by hitting the wall, but I don't see any body damage. It looks like the suspension just collapsed on the left side. Let's see if we can find out how it happens. Yeah, it's broken without contact.
Wow. Well, there are a lot of very rough curbs around the outside of this track. Well, that's more than just the curve. Yeah. So I don't know if that was cause or effect there, but nevertheless, that's really frustrating for this team that's had more than their fair share of bad luck come their way. I think it's safe to say they've had good pace at times this year, but don't always have the results to show for it. And this is another one that's gone by the wayside for Mateo and for Martin.
Oh, and another car off the racetrack. That's the 7, and I think that was the exit of turn 7. Rough ride there. And I think a lot of this grasscrete they put around kind of helped save, but there is signage now stuck on the front of that Lamborghini Huracan, and for Al Mori, that could be a problem. It's going to cut the airflow, but the other thing it's going to do is not only just restrict the airflow to the radiators, it's going to change the amount of downforce he has up front, because the air is not going to flow over the front of the car the way it's designed to.
And that's already having an effect, I think, maybe on the internal temperature of that car, because Maury's out of it. He was running 4th at the time, but you can see he's backed off the pace, maybe the car into limp mode. He's going to have to work his way around cautiously and most likely make his way to the pits to get that removed.
Well, and to the pit lane, the 63 has gone, and so that car out of competition. We know about the significant damage on that left rear suspension, and for Maury, one of those those deals where if you could stop, you might be able to get that piece to come off the front. Let's take a look and see what happens. Just wide, keeps his hands straight. That's all well and good, but then collects the WeatherTech signage. Quite the ride.
Yeah, that was a wild one, no question. And we talked about it earlier. It's been raining all day, so you get off in that grass, and there's no guarantee that you'll be able to control the slide at all. I think he did a pretty nice job, all things considered, to open those hands up and at least mitigate the damage. But unfortunately, that signage ended up stuck on the front of the car in a very inadvantageous position, and that's prompting this trip down the pit lane.
And I'm just thinking championship right now as I look at the pro category with Hampus Eriksson leading. Now the crews removed that signage, but look at the steam coming out of the engine compartment. You wonder if, and a little bit of fluid coming out from the overflow as he pulls away, you wonder just how high those temperatures had gotten in that V10 power plant behind Maury, because if they're too hot, getting back on the racetrack is not going to do you much good, because the car will either remain in limp mode and you won't be able to get up to speed, or it may just go ahead and say, I don't want to do this anymore, which can be very expensive.
Yes, let's hope that that's not the outcome, and that maybe forcing some air into the air intakes can bring the temperature back down to a manageable level. We shall see, but the damage already done in terms of any kind of good result. That was a top 5 in the offing, perhaps, before that miscue.
Just thinking about the points, like I was saying just before we saw that problem for Al Maury, Hampus Eriksson out in front aboard the #1 right now. He and Nick Persing 4th in the championship when the race started today, and I'm looking, if it ends this way, they will collect maximum points for this race with a pole position and then a victory. It won't be enough to get them past Will Bamber in the championship, but it'll close the margin a lot. And the biggest problem for Bamber is the fact that De La Torre would collect 2nd place points, and that pulled that gap out from the 3 points that it was on the way into this race to 15, which would be an entire race win.
Right, yeah, that's close to, well, that's a real challenge to overcome with the remaining amount of races we have left, unless something goes very, very wrong for De La Torre here. And I think your point is well made. What this really does is it tightens up the battle for 2nd and 3rd. By my rough math, I think it would be about 8 points as they run if things were to finish this way, leaving Road America.
And like I said, it's not over until it's over, for sure. We saw the problems and chronicled those earlier for Elias De La Torre at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in race #2. So with 4 races to go, once we leave Road America, there's still time, and the championship is not done. But at that point in time, it's out of your hands a little bit, because the other competitor that you're chasing needs to have a bad day.
Right, that's the trouble that you face, and time runs out very quickly. Just as you mentioned, the 4 races remaining, 60 total points maximum on offer in terms of race points. Then you've got qualifying points as well, point for pole for each of those races, so 64 possible points out there. But if your rivals are having top 3, even top 5 days, that's something that they can take that hit because of the lead that at this point De La Torre has built up.
Tell you what, Dennis Lind is hanging on aboard the 29. When I just watched him through the carousel that time, that car made multiple moves, and I'll go back to something Bamber said. He said, I think this is the hardest these cars have been to drive around this racetrack this weekend for some reason, whether that's the multiple types of rubber that were down, but the 29 with a big moment in the carousel that time. And if you can see it from outside the car on the screen, then you know it's big. I'd be interested to see it again, to see if I can see those bright yellow gloves that Dennis Lind wears, if I could see him moving in the windscreen of the 29 when he came through that time. He was holding on, but I tell you, he is doing everything he can to chase down Hampus Eriksson. Maybe 12 points isn't enough.
Right. even with that twitch that he had, he was still a couple tenths quicker than Hampus on that most recent lap, and they pretty much were equal through what is admittedly a relatively short sector, sector 1 here on this lap. Now don't count him out yet. Again, this is someone with extensive experience in these Super Trofeo cars. He's a champion in the past, about 10 years ago in the European Series, and brings all of that to the table when he joins up with TR3.
Just got a note from Will Bamber, alternator failure. Same thing that was a problem for them in race number 1 at Watkins Glen. So that's just absolutely devastating. Something completely out of your control, and the race can be gone just that simply. Much better run, much smoother run through the carousel this time for Dennis Lin.
Yep, and is it going to allow him to close that gap a little bit? We'll find out soon. They're about to exit sector 2 here, and we'll be able to gauge the relative pace of the two cars. And yes, Lind was incrementally a little bit quicker than Ericsson, about 0.2 of a second, so he does close in. But now, what can he do with him? Yes, he can catch him at this rate, but does he have enough pace disparity to pass Ericsson without a mistake? That's going to be a difficult task.
Man, we're running out of time, inside 5 minutes to go, so 3 more laps, I would say here, but 3 more laps with the pace that Lind is running right now. He was about 0.2 of a second quicker on the overall lap time last time by, and this time, same thing, 0.2 at a time. The problem, though, Ryan, is when you do catch the car in front of you, you begin to get a little bit of aero wash. The air coming off the car in front of you doesn't wrap around your car and work over the aerodynamic devices the way it would if you were running alone, and that creates or can create understeer, and especially the high-speed sections of the racetrack. Looking at first in Pro-Am, Seth Henry.
Not an easy situation to be in if you're following your rival closely. You're right. Here is Henry looking to complete the run to victory here. Wyatt Foster started the day in the car. 4th place result yesterday in race 1 of the weekend. Their best finish of the year, a 2nd in race number 2 at Sebring. Could this be the day they finally break through?
It'd be special too, and we've said this in other races here this weekend. It doesn't matter how you get the position. You were out there racing, and so you've gotten it. It doesn't matter that the 10 has had issues. It's one of those deals where, hey, if we didn't run the race that we ran, we wouldn't be up front right now. So absolutely nothing to be ashamed of there for Seth Henry and Wyatt Foster if they can keep this pace and keep this position for the next 3 minutes to the checkered flag.
Here's the leader in the AM class. This is Gabriel Holguin, who has a 3-second lead right now, but there is a slight sort of Damocles situation here for this car because there is a 1.131 second post-race penalty coming its way. That's because of a short pit stop. It was under the minimum. So that time penalty will be assessed post-race. Right now, it wouldn't cost him a position. He has plenty of time in hand, but a mistake, or perhaps even worse, a safety car intervention here in the final 2.5 minutes that bunches the field up, that could prove, that could make this a more punitive penalty potentially, which he'll be hoping to avoid. And just as we say it, Henry from the lead of Pro-Am has gone around.
Commentator's curse there, Ryan. Commentator's curse. Around the 44 goes, everybody else is gonna stream by, and just like that, it can slip away.
Unbelievable, and then, oh gosh, that's a dangerous place to rejoin. Luckily, everyone was able to miss the car. A look at what happened. This was not on its own. And that was the battle for the lead in the class as well. That was Chloe Chambers, Brian, trying to go around the outside there. Chloe now leads in the class. Well, I assume that will be looked at, but if there was enough contact to merit a call, I'm not so sure.
I wouldn't think so. It looked to me like Chloe Chambers placed the car on the outside and there was no contact. I think for the 44, for Henry, had to keep a bunch of hands in at the apex and try to keep the rolling speed through the middle of the corner. and just was not able to do it. I don't think there was any problem on what, at least from what I saw, on the part of Chloe Chambers aboard the 81.
I'd love to see it again, but that was my first read on it too. Chambers and Porter yesterday, they were runners-up in Pro-Am, looking for their first win. They've really found something, it seems like, here this weekend, Brian, with that Rafa Racing team. Here's another look at it.
Braking zone, she's where she needs to be, turns in a little bit. There's plenty of room to the apex curve that's there. Coming off the corner, she's tracking out and he's tracking with her, and I think just stays in the throttle probably a little bit more than the Hankook tires could take, and around it goes.
Well, you understand the desperation, the desire to try and hang on to the lead with just a couple of minutes to go and maybe secure that first win of the season, but it wasn't enough, and it proves costly, that commitment, trying to stay in that fight with Chambers. Meanwhile, the white flag waves with 12 seconds on the clock. Hampus Eriksson by just 1 second over Dennis Lind, fighting it out for the overall win.
And don't you know, Hampus Eriksson was going, I wish I could have slowed down somewhere on the racetrack to make this thing be over with, because now he's got another 4 laps, and Dennis Lind has gone nowhere. Chloe Chambers across the line. White flag there for the win in Pro-Am, 4 miles away. Man, this will be a big, big day for that Rafa Racing team, for Chloe Chambers and Ian Porter, if they can hold on, as you said, 2 second-place finishes in a row. Second place in the second round at Watkins Glen and second place here yesterday. This would be a big day indeed.
Well, both of them are relatively new to this type of racing, new to the championship this year. Took them a little while to get up to speed, but they are rolling with some momentum now. Back-to-back runner-ups, like you say. Maybe you cap that with the first win of the season. That would be a nice shot at the arm going into the final 2 events.
And Philippe Touchette leading once again in LB Cup, making the best of the day, starting from the back of the field after the technical infraction. Did not let that get between the ears, did not let it get inside his helmet, and has driven a flawless race and leads in LB Cup with a half a lap to go.
Amazingly, for Hampus Eriksson, reigning champion, only 1 win on the season, and it's been a little while. So this would be a nice bit of redemption for him and for this team to get back to victory lane. And again, the title fight may be out of reach, maybe not, we'll see, but certainly that second place battle has hotted up with this result.
As you said, it has been a while since race number 1 at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for Hampus Eriksson and Nick Persing. They will put that behind them and take another victory, this time the win at Road America for Eriksson and Persing. Great run for Wayne Taylor Racing.
Fantastic result for them. Persing under pressure at his stint. Great pit work by the team to maintain the track position. And then Eriksson was able to fend off the challenge against Lind, the veteran, who comes home in second, less than 0.8 of a second behind. But in the Pro-Am class, Chloe Chambers and Ian Porter take their first win of the season in Pro-Am. It took them 6 races to get on the podium. They've now had 3 straight podium results, including this breakthrough victory.
Good stuff there, and Gabriel Holquin up the hill in the 45, 6th in the championship. His best finish was 2nd at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, but he goes to the top step of the podium at Road America. Victory in the AM category for Gabriel Holquin.
And was able to hang on despite that post-race time penalty. LB Cup, Philippe Touchette from the back to the front for the 2nd straight day. It is a clean sweep for Philippe, who now has 3 wins on the season and extends his championship lead in LB Cup.
I think for Philippe Touchette, this will be a weekend that he remembers for a long time, Ryan. Like I said, overcoming those obstacles, but 4 races to go, and I cannot reiterate this enough, and that is these championships are far from settled. And I know that for drivers like Rocky T. Bolduc that had a bad day, kind of a bad weekend, and you lose a little bit, or for Will Bamber with the alternator problem that has put them at the back of the pro category and down in the championship, from Elias De La Torre, you keep your head down, you stay focused, and you do the job that got you into this title fight to begin with, because you never know. It's why we race.
Yeah, and I got a bit carried away with Philippe's story. He was actually second yesterday behind Tasca, but it was still a great drive from him from the back to get to second. Even better today to cap it off with a win, so his second on the season.
Tell you what, I've got to kind of agree with Bamber just by watching the body language of the cars when he said, I think this is the hardest these cars have been to drive around here. Dennis Lin hanging on to that number 29 through the carousel multiple times, and you watch, once again, that body language of the cars into these heavy braking zones, a lot of dancing around on the ABS. These drivers had their work cut out for them, but for Hampus Eriksson, Nick Herzing, they walk away with the victory. An absolutely great weekend for them. And in the championship, Dennis Lin back in the car with Elias De La Torre doing exactly what he needed to do and extending the points lead, or helping extend the points lead for Elias De La Torre in Pro.
Yeah, it was a really smart drive in that final stint. No reason to take any extended risks. A second place result would still be big points for Elias, and he was able to capitalize.
And you saw that victory for Chloe Chambers and Ian Porter. That's big. And for Gabriel Holquist, how big is that celebration going to be at Siebkens tonight?
Oh, massive and well earned. Anytime you come away with a victory at this place, it's special. And I think to do it in the second race of the weekend, it means you can go out and celebrate it even more.
And then you get to the back of the category, and those that did not have a great weekend. We saw the suspension issue on the number 63 of Cedarman, and then even further back where you find in the 31st position, last of the pro category, Darius Trinka and Will Bamber. They are not done yet. There's time left in this championship.
There is still 4 races to go. Next round at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, middle of September. And then Monza to cap off the year as part of the Lamborghini World Final.
Think about a Lamborghini at Monza and how special that must be. I mean, the opportunity to do that is one that I think even if you can just do it the one time, it's one of those deals where it fulfills kind of a racing life ambition. You may not have wanted to be a race car driver all your life, but once you started racing, and especially once you started racing a Lamborghini, going to Monza is probably not really a bad way to end the season.
Oh, no, a fantastic way to close out this year. And then, of course, you get to test yourself against the best from around the world the next couple of days as part of that World Final, the keystone event for Lamborghini single-make racing globally.
Blue sky and sunshine in Elkhart Lake at Road America. Sun shining right now on Hampus Eriksson. That is for sure. After that great run to victory, had to fight off Dennis Lin to the end. Little rainy, cloudy, and not so good weather for other competitors, but that is the way it works. What do you take away from the weekend, Ryan?
Boy, the highs and lows of this sport, they can be extreme. Just because you have a good race on day 1 doesn't mean anything on day number 2, but it's weathering those highs and lows that makes a champion.
And we will see everybody for the final 2 rounds on North American soil in September from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Until then, for Ryan Marine, I'm Brian Till. We'll see you next time.